photos and details about a husband missing, last seen leaving a pub in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
All he cared about was his family. He was a pleaser. He woke up every day to go to work, to always better our lives.
A high-profile rescue team is getting involved in the search for a Covington man. Police are now investigating surveillance video of a stranger using his debit card.
Are there cameras on these ATMs, though?
The security guard offered to call him a ride. He didn't appear to be in distress.
Let's go back to the person you were speaking with at the Greyhound bus station.
What happened from there is certainly unclear.
Mr. Millard's body was discovered on Monday, March 6, 2023, in the 2900 block of Scenic Highway.
The Covington businessman's body was found in a vacant lot in Baton Rouge, his remains wrapped in a large carpet.
And then I saw the feet, and that's when I got really scared.
We don't have any indication that there was any foul play involved.
In my opinion of this, I can see two instances currently where there were violations of Louisiana statute.
Why did they leave part of the rug behind? They're doing everything in their power to make this look like it was Nathan that asked for all of this.
Nathan Millard was just like anybody else who comes to Baton Rouge, a husband and father here for a quick 24-hour trip. He was supposed to meet a client at a job site, but his trip is surrounded by mystery, clouded with darkness, twists and turns that have unraveled the insecurities of the city we call home. How did a businessman from Georgia simply vanish before being found dead, wrapped in carpet, covered in plastic, wearing nothing but underwear nearly 2 weeks later? Unfiltered is breaking down the case, piecing together new clues and never before released evidence. You'll hear from Millard's wife and investigators directly involved in the case to give you a unique perspective as we break down critical clues to try and understand what happened. There's a lot we still don't know about Millard, but for the first time, you will hear things about him from those who knew him best, including his road to recovery as a former addict. So let's start with what we do know about the case and what happened just before Nathan Millard disappeared.
February 22nd, a warm winter day, even by Louisiana standards. Nathan Millard, a 42-year-old father of 5 from just outside Atlanta, was in town for a business trip. He was traveling to Baton Rouge to meet with a client and to see a job site for his company, Advanced Construction, in Conyers, Georgia. He landed in Baton Rouge on a Wednesday afternoon, meeting his work client at the Baton Rouge airport. Josh came in from Tennessee. The two then rented a car from the airport and checked into their hotel downtown, the Courtyard by Marriott. These surveillance pictures, our first glimpse of Millard, show him leaving the hotel with his client. That's him in the black shirt, ball cap, and jeans. Sources confirm the duo was at the hotel less than 30 minutes before leaving out. The two men left the hotel, headed to Happy's Irish Pub on 3rd Street. From there, they went to the PMAC for a LSU basketball game. Millard's wife says that he FaceTimed her from the game, showing off his seats. The game ended just before 8 p.m., and sources say from the game, the two men took a ride share to the Penthouse, a gentleman's club that's about a 15-minute drive from LSU's campus.
Josh Wiles is the work client that Millard came to see in Baton Rouge. Now, I did speak with him on the phone, and he tells me he is fully cooperating with law enforcement as well as with Amber, but he did not want to talk to the media right now. Now, Amber tells me that Josh told her after the two left the Penthouse, they walked to a nearby bar. After that, they caught a ride share at 9:45 and came back to Happy's on 3rd Street.
The duo was at Happy's for a very short amount of time. The bartender at Happy's refused to serve Nathan any drinks. He was served water only. That's when Amber tells Unfiltered with Kieran that Nathan told Josh he was headed back to the hotel and they would see each other the next morning for their work meeting. Now this is where Millard's trip takes a deadly turn. Millard never made it to the hotel. Instead, he detoured through downtown Baton Rouge. He's spotted at a few other locations in Baton Rouge, investigators using his ATM transactions and surveillance footage to try and piece together his steps through the city. One of the surveillance videos caught Millard stumbling, walking into bushes, and even into oncoming traffic. But much of where Millard went and what he did that night remains a mystery.
So what happened from there is, in that 4-hour window, certainly unclear. What happened after is unclear.
It was 11 days before Millard's body was found wrapped in a rug and plastic here in an abandoned structure behind a funeral home off of Scenic Highway in North Baton Rouge, wearing nothing but an underwear. Someone driving by around 3:30 in the morning smelled something and started investigating.
It smelled like something was bad or something was rotting. And at first I thought it could have been like a dead animal, but I didn't see anything. And then I saw the feet, and that's when I got really scared. My stomach was upset, just turning into knots.
Since then, Baton Rouge police narrowed their search to a 45-year-old man by the name of Derek Perkins, also known as Stink. Exactly a week after Millard's body was found, Perkins was arrested as a person of interest on March 13th. Since then, his bond has been set at $14,000 and a hold has been placed on him.
Sources confirm Perkins' vehicle was found burnt near where Millard's body was found. A cadaver dog is who led officers to the trunk of the burned vehicle. Unfiltered with Kieran has also learned Millard was last seen with Perkins on February the 23rd around 4:30 in the morning at the Kangaroo Express on Highland Road. Millard was in a car with Perkins and a woman believed to be a prostitute. That woman's whereabouts are also unknown at this time, and she too has not been seen or heard from since February the 23rd. Police have not released that woman's name at this time.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's Office found no internal or external trauma to the body. The cause and manner of death are pending a full toxicology report. That report could take up to 2 more months to come back. This case has gripped Baton Rouge. How does a businessman right outside of Atlanta simply vanish in Baton Rouge? We have new perspective on that coming up. But first, we want to lay out Millard's journey through Baton Rouge. It's one that started at Happy's Irish Pub, and it's a journey that'll take us through some dangerous areas of Baton Rouge. That's right after this break.
9:30 a.m. Wednesday, February the 22nd, Nathan and Josh arrived to the capital city at the Baton Rouge airport. From there, the two rented one car. The next known whereabouts are these stills from the Courtyard Marriott before they left for a day and night out on the town. Let's fast forward to after Millard left Happy's Wednesday night. Sources confirm after he left Happy's, Millard walked down 3rd Street where he was picked up on surveillance walking past the Courtyard Marriott, meaning he took a right onto Florida Boulevard. His phone was recovered on Convention and 7th. That's near the post office on Florida Boulevard. By the time Millard made it to the Greyhound bus station on Florida, he had already lost his phone. Somewhere in the night, Millard was connected with a homeless man. That man was detained and questioned by Baton Rouge police and then released. He was not charged. Around 2:30 in the morning on February 23rd, Millard was seen at the Greyhound bus station on Florida Boulevard. Sources tell Unfiltered with Kieran that the homeless man guided Millard towards the ATM near the Greyhound bus station.
We talked to a lady at the bus station, actually talked to him, and he apparently was having some confusion how to get back to the motel, and she said, well, give me your phone and I'll go ahead and put the directions in there, and he said, well, I lost my phone. So we know that he talked to somebody there.
Police say the security guard at the bus station offered to call him a ride or even call police for him, but police say Millard, quote,
He didn't appear to be in distress, and he left there under his own accord.
But Amber disputes the claim that Nathan was not in distress. She says she was told Nathan believed he was being followed. After taking around $100 out of the ATM, he put the money in his pocket. Amber says that she is told Nathan approached the security guard and said if someone mugs me, they would get the money out of my pocket, but that they could not get my debit card. That's when sources say he took his debit card out of his wallet and stuck it in his boot. Amber added when Millard asked the security guard how to get back to his hotel, she let him out a back door and told him to walk straight to his hotel and not to stop or talk to anyone he believed was watching him. Millard would lose his wallet after leaving the Greyhound bus station. It was found nearby. The next time Millard is seen, he was in a car with Derek Perkins and a woman at 4:30 in the morning at the Kangaroo Express on Highland Road. It's unclear how or when Nathan ended up in that car.
To help fill in some of those gaps, we got our hands on Nathan Millard's debit card transactions. His wife Amber provided those to us. We saw transactions and stops in various locations in Baton Rouge.
Shortly after 2 a.m. on February 23rd, Millard checked his balance at an ATM. At 2:09 a.m., he withdrew $20 from that same ATM. 2:33, Millard took out $100 from the ATM at the Greyhound bus station we told you about. Sources tell us all of those transactions were Millard. The rest of these transactions are believed to have been someone else. At 5:21 a.m., there's a purchase for $23.75 at a location on East Washington Street. 5:27 a.m. at an ATM on Florida Street, someone checks the balance. 5:28, the ATM again on East Washington Street, someone checks the balance. 5:30, back on Washington Street, there's an ATM transaction for $103.75. The next several charges did not specify an exact address, only that they were made in Baton Rouge. Noon, February 23rd, there's a charge for $30.16. 12:07 p.m., a charge $28. 12:47 p.m., a charge of nearly $27. 1:07 p.m., $79.99 charged on the debit card. 1:16 p.m., a charge for $24.74 was unsuccessful. The next morning on February 24th around 6 a.m., a charge for $26.63 shows up as pending. The next day, February 25th, around 4:30 in the morning, when the card was used, the charge was denied.
Are there cameras on these ATMs, though?
There are. They, I think detectives, I don't know who was using them.
There are a lot of people out there who are sitting here asking things, which a lot of things cannot be dealt to the public yet because it's part of an ongoing investigation.
Right. We want to be an asset on this and not a liability.
Millard's wife came to Baton Rouge on February the 24th, one day after he was reported missing. She has been very critical of Baton Rouge Police's handling of this case. It's why she's asked state police to come in and take over. We speak to her about her husband and the case straight ahead.
He loved his kids, loved his daughter, loved his family.
Nathan Millard's best friend, Devin Corbett, says the two last spoke the Tuesday before Millard came to Baton Rouge about grabbing lunch later that week.
I want to say he called me Wednesday morning, and I couldn't catch it. I was just busy at work, and anyhow, I called him back on Thursday. I actually tried to text him as well, and didn't get a response at all. I mean, we at least would text back, "Hey, I'm busy." So it's just a little strange. And a little later in the day, I tried to hit him up again, and it's just kind of weird. And I had a feeling. I had this weird feeling. And then I got a message later from Amber letting me know that he was missing.
Corbett spoke candidly to Unfiltered with Kieran.
I'd like to just go ahead and speak on his relationship with his children from his previous marriage. There had been some strain and some space with that, but he talked about them all the time. He missed them. He loved them. And, if they're listening, I hope they know. I want them to know that he spoke about them often. I know Nathan would want them to know that he still, he cared for them a lot.
Nathan and Amber had 2 boys each from their previous marriages and shared a 7-year-old daughter.
He was the best girl dad. I always told him that he was made to be a girl father. He would do face masks, tea parties, whatever. It was, he was her playmate.
Amber tells Unfiltered with Karen she is too emotionally drained to interview again, but admitted Nathan was a recovering addict, and by that she explained his addiction was alcohol. Corbett explained that.
Nathan had a tendency to, when he would drink, he would typically drink a little too much, and not to the point. Nathan was not an angry drunk. He was not like a mean drunk or a wild drunk. He liked to have a good time, and he'd typically take it a little too far. He'd call me the next day and be like, "Hey man, I had a little too much to drink. Amber's on me."
In fact, in October 2021, Amber says Nathan went through rehab, with Amber calling multiple places for days on end to secure a spot for treatment for Nathan.
October of last year is when he texted me his chip and showed me his year sobriety. So he would have been sober for 15 months then, before this trip happened. I've seen him in the state that was described that he was in. If he was being cut off from drinking at bars, he was probably a little bit out of his mind. I feel like he was taken advantage of, and I feel like something nefarious happened to him that night.
Amber said when drunk, Nathan became even more naive, gullible, and trusted everyone. Now remember, Happy's stopped serving him any more alcohol because he was too intoxicated. For the people who knew him, they're saying what's being said does not add up at all.
He was very charismatic, tried to make friends with everybody, had a really good time. He was the kind of guy that when we would get to see each other for lunch, he'd come up and hug me and tell me he loved me. And that's, for me as a guy, it's a little strange for me, but he was just a caring, genuinely loving guy. Nathan didn't go there with the intentions of getting completely whacked out of his mind and not seeing his family the next day. Something happened. That car was burnt for a reason, to cover up things.
He's referring to the car Millard was last seen in around 4:30 a.m. on Highland Road, a stolen car with Derek Perkins inside it and a prostitute.
From what I understand, the prostitute was an acquaintance of the man that was arrested, and I think they were just probably together. Nathan was not one to indulge in prostitution. Never. And I can tell you that Nathan's told me the good, bad, and ugly of everything he's ever done.
Corbett's entire reason for speaking up is the idea that Millard lived a risky lifestyle, and somehow he did this to himself.
At no point in time on any of the information that we've received or the videos that we've seen does Mr. Millard appear to have been in any sort of distress. He appeared to be at those locations under his own power.
They're doing everything in their power to make this look like it was Nathan that asked for all of this.
And what goes through you to hear that?
It's gut-wrenching, and it makes no sense.
Amber has been critical of BRPD's handling of Millard's case from not only what was said in the news conference.
It didn't appear that there was anything taking place criminally. At this time, we don't have any indication that there was any foul play involved. All I can tell you is that from their report, there were no signs of internal or external trauma, which to us, that kind of leads into the whole foul play thing. There doesn't appear to be any foul play at this point. I know that he was placed there, obviously, by another individual. We would like to know who and why, but just from the autopsy results that were given by the coroner's office, at this time there doesn't appear to be any signs of foul play.
But also from the handling of evidence. BRPD did not keep his cell phone or metal wallet clip, not to mention the rug left behind at the scene that Millard was found in.
Whenever we go to a crime scene, our detectives and our crime scene investigators, they confer with each other on what needs to be taken and what doesn't. And they didn't deem it necessary for them to take the entire rug. And I'll just leave that at that. But everything that needed to be collected was collected from that scene.
Since then, sources tell Unfiltered that the rug was removed on Tuesday night and properly disposed of. That's one day after Millard's body was found. It came after the department took a beating publicly of why they would leave evidence on scene. All these reasons are why Amber has not only called the Louisiana State Police, but also emailed them, requesting them to officially take over the investigation from the Baton Rouge Police Department.
I just feel like clearly if they are struggling with this investigation, then maybe they can humble themselves and ask for outside assistance, like the state police, to come in. There's so many unanswered questions that just the puzzle pieces aren't adding up.
Since that request, however, she says she has not heard a word from state police, and she added the Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul and Mayor Sharon Weston Broome have never reached out either.
Much of the investigation is happening at the East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's Office. With no visible trauma to Millard's body, the final cause of death, and important evidence for the police investigation are all waiting on that full toxicology report. We sat down one-on-one with the East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner, Dr. Bo Clark, who's giving us new perspective on Millard's death and where things stand on the case. Fill us in on Nathan Millard's case as much as you can.
Sure. So right now the case is still pending investigation. We're waiting specifically on our toxicology report to come back. And that takes about 10 weeks from the time we send it off because we use a national laboratory to get the best quality results. And the reason it takes 10 weeks is because there's been a national explosion with the opioid epidemic in general that a lot of different people are using the same laboratories, the two that exist.
What are you looking for in the toxicology report?
So we typically order a panel that's called drugs of abuse panel, okay? And those are the most common drugs that we see through our investigations and even nationally through other investigations that people use and misuse, and it's specifically the illicit ones that result in people's death. So we typically start with that panel. We can either get an basic or an advanced level. The advanced level adds more drugs to it. And then we are in constant communication with the toxicologist there. So as they run the test, if they see any results that might be a test that we didn't order, but that might be significant for the case, they will call us back and say, hey, you might want to add such and such to this case. And then of course we will, and that'll give us those results and see if they're playing a role in the death that we're investigating.
Are you at liberty to say what all you have ordered on this case?
I believe more than likely, we ordered the advanced drugs of abuse panel, the routine one. We have not had any communication with them saying, hey, look, you need to order more because we're seeing more. But if they do, of course, we'll order it.
Can you tell us, as the coroner, was there any trauma to the body?
Correct. We did not at autopsy see any signs of external or internal trauma. So that means overall looking at the body, what we call our gross examination, when we look at the body in whole, we did not see any gunshot wounds or stab wounds. And then of course, when we do our internal investigation through the autopsy, we cut the body open and we examine all the organs, all the systems, we didn't see any trauma there either.
We've heard the phrase no foul play from the police department. I guess, did that come from the coroner's office?
No, it did not. It did not. My statement was simply what was released in the press release that you got, and all other media outlets. Of course, media outlets across the country have called and requested that, and that is the only information we have released in this case because it's still pending investigation. Yeah.
So when they're saying no foul play, can you, I guess, provide some clarity on that?
No, I'm not really sure what they mean, to be honest with you. Those were their words, and I don't want to speak for them. But I will say this. In my opinion of this, I can see two instances currently where there were violations of Louisiana statute. The first one would be when someone dies, the first person that is supposed to be notified is the coroner. Obviously, if there was anyone with Nathan Millard when he died, they did not call us, okay? So that's a violation of statute right there. The second one would be moving a deceased body. There are very specific statutes in regards to who can do that, and certainly in this case, I think that would also be a violation because the body was moved to a location where we found it. So right now, those are two violations of state law that I can think of related to this case.
So if there's no physical trauma to the body, inside or outside, is one to kind of conclude it's going to end up being something drug-related?
Well, I don't want to conclude that because I don't have all the information. So I'm an emergency medicine doctor by training, and sometimes people say, well, what are the chances of someone living or dying in my world? I never say it's 100% either way because I've seen things happen that I didn't think were possible. So I'm just going to wait until we get all the information back. And then once I feel that we have everything we need to make a definitive conclusion, then that's when we'll make that decision.
Any signs of strangulation?
No.
We've heard the words accidental overdose being tossed around in this case. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I won't make a determination. So when we talk about accidental, we talk about the manner of death. There are 5 manners of death: natural, homicide, suicide, accidental, or undetermined. I won't make a determination as to the manner of death until we have more clarity on the cause of death. Oftentimes, in general, overdoses are seen as accidental based on the investigative information we have. We have had a few instances where we've had overdose deaths that were considered homicides, and those were in children and infants. But it depends on the circumstances of the investigation. So that will be something that will be determined in conjunction with the cause of death.
This case is not being investigated as a homicide, correct?
Well, from my standpoint, we're still investigating it. So we have not made that determination. As far as what law enforcement is doing, you'll have to ask them. I'm not sure. It's very, sometimes it's difficult or challenging for people to understand this, but the Office of the Coroner is purposely a separate office. We work, of course, in conjunction with the criminal justice system. We work with the district attorney's office when it comes to testimony in cases. We work with law enforcement as they're investigating and talking to suspects and trying to make arrests. But we're independent for a reason, because we, even though we don't work in a silo, we work in an environment where our duty and responsibility is to the deceased and their family, and to making that determination, even independent of those other entities.
And usually when it comes to deciding if it is a homicide or not, that comes from you or no?
So so when we're talking about the manner of death, yes, that would come from me. However, I can call something an accidental death, and the district attorney's office can still choose to prosecute it. And then maybe through the legal system on the back end, it becomes classified as something else. It never changes what I classify it as, but it may be classified as something else.
I guess one of the last things I want to touch on is alcohol. We've been told repeatedly that he was a recovering addict, and he had been clean, sober for 1.5 years, and he just fell off the train when he came to Baton Rouge. What about blood alcohol content? Has all of that been tested, or that would be in the pending toxicology?
That's all part of the pending toxicology. Alcohol's included in that evaluation.
And obviously, too much alcohol can kill you.
Sure. I mean, it can, and of course, we talk oftentimes right now about the opiate epidemic because it's such a large problem in this country, in our community, with fentanyl, the presence of fentanyl and other drugs. And that's very important because you can have certain drugs in your system, and alcohol would be a very good example. You can have just a little bit of alcohol in your system that we know doesn't impair you. Of course, you can have more than what's considered the impairment level or the legal level, 0.08, and you are impaired by it. And so that's why quantitative toxicology from a nationally accredited forensic laboratory is so important in the work we do. And it's just unfortunate it takes so long to get the result back, but that's where we're at.
Nathan Millard's case is more than just a case number. It's a reminder how fragile life really is. As we wait on the full toxicology report, his death has unfortunately put Baton Rouge on the national spotlight. How does a father and a businessman simply vanish? Demons coming back from his past? Or did something more sinister happen? Time will only tell. And to keep up with the case, download the Unfiltered with Kieran app. And again, if you have any information that can help, please call the Greater Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP. From the entire Unfiltered with Kieran team in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, thank you for joining us.